Hello and welcome to today's show. Now, this show, because of previous content, would be scheduled for the second Saturday in September. But I might swap an earlier show that's scheduled to be released that hasn't been released for a young man in Canada. Don't know him, never met him. I don't even think he's even responded to a single one of my comments. So maybe I'm just wasting my time with this young fella. But he last week released a video saying that he bought a Core Ultra 7, and he was almost like he was ashamed. Like, I can't believe I bought a Core Ultra 7, but this is what we do, because his machine died. And he had a pretty decent show. He's an entertaining young lad. His name's David, or I think it's David. It may be Dawid, is with a W instead of a V, like Dawid or something like that. He does tech stuff. You can look him up. But anyway, his video editing machine died, so he put a new one together. And I want to give a little bit of tip to him and any other content producers out there of maybe how things can go with some different things that maybe you already have. Let's roll the intro and get right to it. All right. The first thing, I have been building this particular machine for a while, and some prices have come down, and that's good, and I'm happy with what I've got. But the first thing I want to point out is let's look at this board now. Here, this is the brand that I bought. You buy whatever brand you want. This is an ASRock. They're just a brand that I have had pretty good luck with. They're not too terribly expensive. This top section, these are their enthusiast boards, and they are more expensive. You can look at how many ports and things they stack up on this one. This would be a good one right there. It looks like that is. It's the 870 versus the 890. I would personally rather have the 890. This is all Type C's back here. And they have, this course has the genuine Intel Thunderbolt. This has that 4.0, which for all intents and purposes are pretty close to the same thing, I think. If for Thunderbolt 4 versus USB 4, they're pretty close. But this one is not a unlock board with a Z890. Anyway, I was looking at this one right here. I've got a series of stuff out, and you can go look at their data as I'm trying to explain to people who may not know, and so they might just watch so much of this tech stuff and it just kind of glosses over. I try to educate or help them out. Anyway, Phantom Gaming series. It's in this little section here. And look, we have a similar option. I think this is fairly new, the 4.0. When I bought this motherboard, I'm sorry, I can't say mother, this birthing person board. Okay, this is the one I got. It was between the Tai Chi Lite and this one. This wasn't available, I don't think. It's got a 4.0, so it may be a little bit cheaper than this one. This one was a pretty good price, like the way it works. Not got a problem with that. But anyway, one of the things that it does is right here, it has a PCIe 5.0 that a lot of them have. And one of the reasons why I think that you would want to go with the Core Ultra is because you can run this slot in PCIe 5.0 and make use of whatever 50 series card you have. I only have a 40 series, so I'm not using it. But I also don't want to lose 8 bits, go from 16 bits to 8 bits, because I had to strip off 4 lanes and give to my NVMe. And if you're a content producer, this is your best friend, is getting a decent Gen 5 NVMe. To that, let's look over here. This is the brand that I chose, and they've come down significantly. Newegg, I bought mine not too much longer ago, not too far in the distance past, and I paid $488. So we've dropped 20%, $100 off of a 4 terabyte. So now, right now, the 705 is $100 per terabyte. Looks like there's one $400 for 4. This looks like 2 for a 2 terabyte, 210, something like that. And of course, if you could find a 1 terabyte, that'd be fine. But the benefit of these, if you want to crash course real quick as a content provider, you need a board that can run Gen 5, obviously. And you need the Phison controller because that helps with the reads and the writes. Because you can read pretty quickly with most of the other cheaper versions, but you don't get the write speed without that Phison controller. And this was my selection, was the 4 terabyte. Maybe I should have got a 2. Almost got a 2. In fact, the reason I didn't get the Core Ultra 7 was strictly because I was looking at the Core Ultra 7 and I was going to get a smaller drive, okay, or a bigger drive. And then I had trouble getting the 705, so I decided, well, since if I'm going to buy a 705 2 terabyte, I'm going to spend a little extra money getting the Core Ultra 9 versus the 7, but then I got hung up getting the 2 terabyte, so I ended up with a 4, so I spent more money on this from the 7 to the 9 and from the 2 to the 4, but I'm pretty happy with the results of this particular thing. Now let's look at, because he's a content provider, let's bring up these little videos here. Okay, if I bring this down into our main screen, this is a directory I've just worked with. These are 3 different videos produced off of one thing, for one particular project. They are 1 3/4 gigabytes per show. So let's take a look at how long it takes to produce one of those. Here, if I use the GPU, now you have to see my pretty face. It just snapshots it at the end of the run. It says that it took 14 minutes and 22 seconds to produce this video. Well, let me close that down and grab another one. This is one without the hardware acceleration of the NVIDIA 4070 Super using the Core Ultra 9, and it's actually 14 minutes and 6 seconds, right? So that's pretty good time for that. 14 minutes to do a video that is that big. Now, what do you say we try to load up? Let me minimize this. Let's load up our project file and get a familiarity with this brand that I use. I use Power Director from Cyberlink. I've used this for 10 years. And as David or David said, or David, how you pronounce his name, there is a huge learning curve when you switch your software. Now, I'm actually pulling this up to show you a typical thing. Do you see this says not responding? This is one of those little freaky things that Cyberlink is awful about. It's awful about loading. They need to change that timing a little bit or something, improve it. And when we go from the editor to the producer, because you need a good GPU, a good CPU to do your editing with. And that's where that 705, that Gen 5 NVMe on that new 890 mainboard that Mr. Canadian fella bought, that's what he's wanting right there. You want that reading and writing speed because it really makes a difference. Now, I'm talking over this because we want to see how long it takes in real life to load this particular file. Because it's not a small little file. There we just loading up and it's going to come up and do the stuff at the bottom. I don't know how DaVinci works. I've thought about changing because from time to time I get a little irritated. This feels like it's not snappy enough for me. But this is the project. And you see we've got 16 tracks and there's quite a bit of stuff chopped up. You can see all these little bitty cuts in these edits where I've cut things out or I've changed or made them bigger, made them smaller or whatever. I have 3 different channels, so I produce content essentially off the same work, but they do have different builds for each of the uploads for legal reasons. So here we have this, it's loaded up. One of the things that takes so much time, it has in the past, is if I hit this produce button and I want to bring up the load and see how fast that snaps. with my as late as that 12th Gen i7, that may take 15, 20 seconds to go from the two version. If we go back to the editor, that's how much longer it takes on that 12th gen. This is so much better, so much better. But now look at the layout of this. This is actually a pretty good file. Let me come down to this end of it, and we're going to look at some reality. If I can get this stretched out, my little gamey mouse. There we go. That may be a little too close. All right, where's my little slider guy? Here we go. Down here at the end, we really slow down on our speed, and the reason is because what does this do? This has, let me find where we do the high speed. All right, we put it in this spot. I have to unfreeze this so that I can see what our speed is. There it is. It's telling me right there. It's 30 times speed. Well, if I pull this section up and I do the tool and I do video speed, you see it tells me that this is a almost 8-minute segment of video. And this is, I'm setting some voltage, some under and over voltage several times. I go in and out of the BIOS. But anyway, it's been stripped down to 15 seconds. Okay. We've taken nearly 8 minutes and crumpled it to 15 seconds. Now, if I close this, if I go to the previous segment, I think the previous one. Hey, appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, if you will, subscribe to the channel, either the YouTube or the Rumble channel, which this appears in. And if you can, check the notification bell or settings to make sure that you get notified when new videos are posted. Appreciate it. Now, if I close this, if I go to the previous segment, I think the previous one is at 10 times. I may have stretched. I think I stretched it actually, or to fit a specific block. Yeah. See, so this is 7 seconds of time, and it's at a 9.15, 9.2 times speed. So what is that telling us as far as this goes? Well, what I'm saying is we have another 15 minutes worth of video that the software has to roll through to produce this particular video that I have on overclocking the Core Ultra 9. Okay, and if I shrink this back down, let me do some stretching. All right, if I bring this back up, this is with the GPU. All right, here we go. You see it? It took 14 minutes and 22 seconds to produce at HVAC a video that was 1 hour and 15. Now we still have the other roughly 15 minutes. So we produced 1.5 hours worth of video to 14 minutes in 14 minutes using the Core Ultra processor, that 24 core Ultra processor. Of course, it's also using my custom loop, and I do have the T705. And if you're a world famous Canadian guy who kludges together some of the stuff you buy off eBay and tinkers with stuff, I highly recommend, if you're going to do content production, that you get a good NVMe Gen 5 drive and the board to drive it, like this particular ASRock board that I have, because it took 14 minutes and 22 seconds to do that video. Now let's go look at the one without using hardware acceleration for your GPU. And it took 14 and 6. That's the right one? No, I lied. I got them backwards. This one, this is no GPU. It's 14 and 6 seconds. And the one with the GPU, it's 1422. And this is a 4070 Super that is significantly overclocked. And it's actually faster with that processor. So, yeah, I don't know why people are trashing Intel. We had a bad problem with some main boards that were cranking up in their BIOS for maximum speed, like for the gamers. And a lot of people didn't know it, and it ended up damaging their silicone. Of course, they're blaming because a lot of gamers are AMD boys, and so they're blaming Intel like it's just absolute crap. And Intel is big enough to kind of falter a little bit under its own weight. It's a huge company, but I'm not disappointed with this one. Now, if you want to see, let me kick that off, turn that one off. Now we're back in our little project. So we have effectively what we're going to see that first. See those little eyes? Let me bring you back up. Here we are. These little eyes, this means it's done something to it. The software has done something to it. So we have changed our time span. This is 10% faster. On the other end, we had the 30% faster and the 10 times faster. Let's see how this thing compiles. Let me make sure all my little levels are turned off. All right, I'm just going to run one. We're going to run this layer, the layer above it with the little black dots, and everything above that. That's what we're going to run on this. And let's see how long and what it looks like as we do a compilation, a build from the editor, which you definitely need good CPU for the editing, and I/O, which is the main board in the editing. And then normally you would need a good GPU to do the special work, especially if you do any AI stuff. All right, so let's kick it over to the producer. Ooh, that is so much better than what I've been dealing with on that 12th gen system. And it has 32 gigs of DDR4. So this is 48. It doesn't use all that. It's just not required, but it gets all it needs. Oh, I tell you what, let's bring up, we'll bring up this is core temp. How many are familiar with core temp? It's listing all my cores. We can see right now we're running about 27 watts. We're running at 30 degrees, most of our little cores. Okay, let me set this over to the side. I'm going to bring this up and just hit this over to this directory. This is just where my video, I spool on this server. So we're going to just let it stay this name. And we're going to hit start. And let's see how the progress bar, it's going to give us this thing at the bottom. This is a screenshot at the very end. Let's see how it looks like it produces as it goes. And we'll pull up our core temp, reset our highs and lows, and we'll see how this thing does. Now I'll clip out a little bit of time at the end. Now you see it's crawling a little bit because it's having to drop a couple of frames. Now once it gets past dropping those frames, you'll see how fast it clicks on. And I don't know if you can see this at the bottom. It's doing all right. It's doing all right for a Core Ultra, for a content producer. You need a good rig because if you're just used to the stuff that then works good and it hangs up and it craps out on you, I hate that mess with a passion, but it does. And even the Cyberlink will do that. And it's done it with every version on every computer I've ever used through every last 10 or so years of doing this stuff. Now that we're into the main run, look at it. It's going pretty quick. I don't know if you can see this. It's a relative thing, actually. But down here at the bottom, we are pushing. I'll tell you when we hit the 2-minute mark, I may edit this out a little bit to save you some time. But when it hits 2-minute mark, we'll look see how much of the file we have produced. Even though we're off to a rocky start in the beginning, simply because it has to go through that frame dropping. And then we really slow down at the tail end of it. So, hey, if you can produce an hour-and-a-half video in less than 15 minutes, I think you're doing pretty good. All right, we're coming up on 2 minutes, and we have 9 minutes and 30 seconds worth of video produced. So 9.5 minutes in 2. So that's at what, almost 5 to 1 ratio, producing 5 minutes worth of video for every minute of runtime or build time. That's pretty good, I think. I definitely think that you want, for the speed of how it works, a good hard drive in there. And that's where that Z890 motherboard or birthing person board is going to help you if it does the lanes on the Gen 5 the way ASRock did theirs, okay? Maybe you can't overclock it, but you can certainly, if it's the, was it 870, I think it is, whatever the other chipset is that you don't overclock with. Either which way, it's a great chip, I think. It's a great board. Will it hold up? Who the heck knows? Do you have a crystal ball? I don't have a crystal ball. I tell you what, let's abort this. Let's go ahead and cancel rendering. All right. Let's go in there and change. Are you ready? Let's go in there and change it off of the hardware acceleration so that we're hammering that processor as hard as this software will do it. Let's go try that. It's not going to make much difference one way or another. You see down there in this corner, can you see my mouse move? All right, follow my movie mouse. Down here, it says fast rendering technology. Let's turn that off. Can we turn it off? My gaming mouse worked. Now it's off. You see that's off? Not there. On, off. Okay. It lights up this little second for their little hyper velocity. Okay, now I got it again. I'm going to repeat that. I got an Asus overclocked edition dual BIOS 4070 Super, and it is pretty well overclocked. It is pretty well overclocked. We can pull those up, but let's just go ahead and bring this up. We're going to save it to the same spot. Let's move up to our video directory, put it there. And this time we're going to run it, check our temperatures so that we're not using any hardware acceleration of the GPU. I didn't write the software. I don't know what it does. Let's go ahead and hit it and let's get it going. Let's see. And see, look, it just started right off the bat. This is so much snappier and faster with the Core Ultra processor in there. We need to bring up, we're in our slow spot, remember, down here at the bottom, because we're doing some frame dropping. All right, bring this up. That's clear. That's clear. Logging is on reset the highs. In fact, the only regret that I have is I have to now get the echo out of my room. But check it out. We are now running 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And what's our hottest temperature? 80 degrees C. And well, this is my problem core. I do have 22. If you watch the video that's going to come out a week before this, if I don't bump this, I may swap two videos so that this doesn't show up in the second week of September, that we get benefit of it before then. If anybody cares. I don't know if anybody cares. So, but anyway, yeah, it's running pretty cool. It's running pretty cool strictly on the processor. And this does look like it's 250 watts is what the maximum turbo is set to be. So what do you say we go ahead and close this down and just enjoy our content providing machine? And brothers and sisters, you do what you want. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm pretty happy with mine. Maybe I should have stuck to the original plan and got the Core Ultra 7 and the 2 terabyte 705 Crucials. That would have saved me about $600, but I didn't. So I don't change computers very often. So, and I'm getting old. There's no guarantee I'm not going to have a heart attack tonight. Anyway, see ya. Appreciate you watching. Share me around. If you don't mind, do a click, like, and subscribe, the notification bell, and wherever you see the videos. But yeah, there are a couple of different channels. Find one of them, if you will. And realize I'm not real big on trying to be snooty. There's a lot of stuff I know, but even more I don't know. So anyway, that's it, my friends. That's it, my friend. Have a blessed and good holiday period. If this comes out in about deer season, September, mid-September, yeah, I may put it out here before that. It's just going to mess up my release dates. Appreciate you. See y'all. Bye.